Coming up, 3 prison employees are recovering this morning following a situation in the mailroom at an Eastern Kentucky correctional facility. And we will check in on pending legislation as Kentucky's General Assembly wraps up later this week. And officials with 2 federal agencies are scheduled to testify in front of Congress later today on airline safety.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning, I'm Taylor Upchurch. Today is Wednesday, March 27th. Now let's check in with Brandon Robinson for a look at your forecast this morning. Brandon, it's a little chilly out there right now, but that's not the news for the rest of the day.
Yeah, exactly. It's a frosty start to the morning, so give yourself some time to get those cars warmed up and get the kids out the door in those jackets this morning because they'll need it. But later on today, you'll be shedding those because it's going to be in the 60s this afternoon. Let's take a look at the cameras first. Buffalo Mountain here in Perry County, all quiet this morning. No visibility issues, just again a little bit of frost there on some of those windshields. Temperatures this morning anywhere from 24 to about 36. That's the range. Of course, the ridges a little bit warmer than some of those valleys this morning. And the out the door forecast looks pretty nice overall as we look at temperatures that'll flirt with the mid 60s later on today with lots of sunshine. That frost this morning is the only thing we have to worry about. I'll have more in the full forecast coming up here in just a few minutes. Taylor?
All right, thank you, Brandon. 3 people are recovering this morning following a situation at the Manchester Federal Prison in Clay County. It happened Monday in the prison's mailroom. Hazmat crews in the military from Louisville were called to the scene. We learned from 911 calls the workers had a variety of symptoms, including shortness of breath, nausea, and numbness to the lips and tongue. The area was deemed safe after extensive investigations.
They had 3 of their guards who got symptomatic after they thought they might have been exposed to something. We didn't know what. Long story short, it was a long night. Everything ended well. Everybody's home safe.
Officials were not able to find out what caused the illness, and we have the full statement from the Department of Justice on our website. In state news, Thursday marks the end of this year's legislative session. We've seen numerous hot topics discussed in Frankfort, including abortion, gun laws, and changes to our education system. Hillary Thornton takes a look at the bills the governor has signed and what's still left on the table.
More than 150 bills went to the governor's desk in the week before the veto period break. Governor Bevin signing several notable bills during this time, including the school safety bill, a permitless carry bill, a couple different abortion-related bans, some aiming to improve the foster care system, one requiring the national motto, "In God We Trust," be displayed in schools, and the at times controversial net metering bill. Now, at this point, the governor has made 2 vetoes. Lawmakers will have a chance to consider overriding those vetoes and any others made between now and when they meet on Thursday. Additionally, the Senate is expected to vote on House Bill 11, which had a late surge before the break. It aims to ban all tobacco products, including vaping products, from Kentucky schools. Another topic expected to come up deals with pension reform. It is the decision whether or not to give regional universities, local health departments, and some other quasi-government agencies relief from the big increase in pension costs they will face starting in July. That is something that could force health departments serving 64 counties to shut down. Now, both chambers did approve measures, but their versions of the bill vary significantly on some points. Leadership members say they will likely try to hash that all out.
Anything that is passed on the final day could still be vetoed by the governor, and once lawmakers close out the session by midnight, they will not have a chance to override any of those decisions. And Governor Bevin also signed a bill that could cost the state's general fund more than $100 million a year. Our news partners at the Herald Leader report House Bill 354 changes part of the tax code, creating less revenue for the state. It's in exchange for a tax break for some locally owned banks, as well as exempt nonprofits from some sales taxes. And Governor Bevin also signed Senate Bill 85 into law on Tuesday. First-time DUI offenders will now have the option to either lose their license for 9 months or use an ignition interlock device. It requires the driver to pass a breathalyzer test before their car can start. Kentucky now joins 32 other states with similar legislation. And with several education topics still on the agenda in this year's General Assembly, it's unclear if schools could face another sick out. Several school districts were forced to cancel classes at least once this year for teachers calling in sick, and a sea of red filled the state capitol building. Governor Bevin says calling another sick out sends out a bad message to students.
To me, if you continue to lie about being sick, that just sends a very bad message, certainly to students, among others. The idea of lying about something in order to get something you want is really not a good example. It's not a good precedent.
Teachers say the sick-outs weren't to protest one specific bill. Instead, they say many bills came up in Frankfort that could impact them. Also, a big issue still looming in Frankfort is Kentucky's Medicaid program. And looking ahead to May, it could be a divisive issue as 4 Democrats seek their party's nomination. Democrat Andy Beshear says if elected governor, he would repeal Governor Bevin's efforts to revamp the program. As we've reported, Bevin won federal permission to require some Medicaid recipients to have a job, go to school, or do volunteer work to keep their benefits. The rules are set to take effect in April, but they are facing a court challenge. And in West Virginia, people living there will soon be able to go to community and technical colleges for free. Governor Jim Justice signed a bill on Monday authorizing tuition grants to those who are at least 18 years old and have completed a secondary program. Grantees would have to pass a drug test each semester, maintain a 2.0 grade point average, take at least 6 credit hours per semester, and perform at least 8 hours of community service. The measure goes into effect June 5th. And also in West Virginia, Governor Justice has appointed a new transportation secretary and an acting highways commissioner. Former Transportation Secretary Tom Smith held both titles until he was fired by Justice earlier this month. Bird White will now take over as Transportation Secretary, and longtime highway worker Jimmy Riston will step into the commissioner role. The 2 appointments come at a time where Justice has stated he wants to work more on the state's secondary roads. And underride crashes, or crashes when vehicles crash under the rear bumpers or under the sides of tractor trailers, kill around 200 people every year. While there are regulations making the rear bumper safer, there's no legislation that creates safety features for the sides. As WYMT's Justin Case reports, a national push is hoping to change that.
This is what it looks like when a car crashes into the side of a tractor trailer. In many cases, people inside the car are seriously injured or even decapitated. Lois Durso's daughter Roya was killed in a crash like this in 2004. She now leads the national push to add safety features to the sides of tractor trailers.
Underride is a big problem in this country. It's been going on for decades, and it's time to do something about it.
Local commercial vehicle enforcement officers are not able to comment on any bills or legislation, but they say crashes involving semi-trucks are unfortunately common in this area.
Whether it be from rear impact, side impact, head-on collisions, you name it, we've certainly seen our fair share of it here in our area.
Stephen Douglas says in many cases these deaths are preventable.
Distracted driving is definitely towards the top. You've got impaired driving, fatigue driving, but for the most part, distracted driving is going to be one of your major contributing factors to most commercial vehicle accidents.
Laws are already in place requiring rear guards, which you can see here. Truck drivers at this weigh station say new legislation would not affect them unless the new safety guards greatly increase their truck's weight, which could then increase shipping costs.
Your chances of survival are definitely slim when going up against a commercial vehicle. So, one thing we would like to leave with everyone here today is, buckle up.
Weighing the odds of making our streets a safer place.
Durso has started an organization called StopUnderrides.org. She believes if side guards were in place during her daughter's crash, she would still be alive today. And the state of commercial aviation safety will be front and center Wednesday afternoon. Officials with the industry will testify in front of the Senate Commerce, Science and Transportation Committee. In addition to that, officials from the airline World will meet at Boeing facility in Seattle as the company tries to rebuild confidence. This comes after recent problems with MAX 737-8 airplanes, including 2 deadly accidents.
Boeing is a world-class company. They are one of the finest companies in the world. And we are confident that Boeing will find a solution.
The MAX 8 planes were grounded a few days after investigators turned in additional information. If FAA spokesman declined to comment on any oversight changes. And Vice President Mike Pence made a big statement about the U.S. future in space on Tuesday. He also spent time with some kids who could be the nation's future there. Pence hung out with students attending space camp near the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama. The vice president went there after announcing that the U.S. should land astronauts on the moon again by 2024. He made the declaration at a meeting of the National Space Council. The Space Center's CEO said there was no better place to make that announcement.
There is no more appropriate place for the National Space Council to meet than Huntsville, Alabama. This is where the future of the space program should be crafted, and these are the signs of the industry meeting here together to determine our future in space.
Pence's announcement would move NASA's original deadline forward by 4 years. The agency has been facing delays in developing a new U.S. space rocket. But Pence said if NASA cannot meet the new deadline, the administration could turn to private industry. Coming up on Mountain News this morning, the full lineup for a Central Kentucky Music Festival is released, and an Eastern Kentucky native is on it.
After a bit of a chilly start, things really look up for us both condition and temperature-wise later today. I'll have the full forecast in about 3 minutes.